So, hello and good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the ATHENA Roundtable on Women in Leadership in celebration of International Women's Day, and also and especially to raise awareness of the challenges that women are still facing also in higher education institutions. And today we want to use this opportunity to find solutions on how to improve the situations in higher education institutions, but also in general in our societies. The ATHENA Technology Higher Education Network Alliance, in short ATHENA European University, is a federation of mid-sized higher education institutions in 9 European countries. And we draw on our combined strength to reach a common objective, and this is to deliver high quality education with a positive impact on research, youth employability, and social advancements, on the one hand side on a national level in the member countries, but also in the broader sense on the European level. My name is Denise Warnick, and I have the pleasure to guide you through today's event as a moderator, but I also have the pleasure of working as head of European and international cooperation at Kołodyńska University of Applied Sciences in the south of Austria. And QS is the most recent ATHENA associated member. We joined in 2023. And I can say on behalf of our institution that we are immensely grateful for this fantastic opportunity. Today, we have the wonderful opportunity to hear from leaders in the field. And after a round of introductions, we will have the opportunity to hear about the challenges women face in the government, in academia, in research, in business, and also in various industries. And we're a very warm welcome to all our panelists today that take the time out of their very busy lives to be with us today in celebration, but also to raise awareness for these issues. Gender balance clearly decreases with seniority among heads of higher education institutions, where women hold slightly below than 24% of these positions in the EU 27. So the emphasis of today's event is to address the challenges, but especially to focus on solutions. And I would say we dive right in, and let us start with Dr. Aida Kamisalic-Latific. A very warm welcome to you as the State Secretary for the Ministry of Digital Transformation in Slovenia. You represent the governmental sector today during this talk, and you have a very long-standing experience in research, and we would love to hear from you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm Aida Kamisalic-Latific. I'm a State Secretary at the Ministry of Digital Transformation. I'm also Assistant Professor at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science at the University of Maribel in Slovenia. As a researcher, I'm dedicated to the fields of advanced data technologies, databases, big data, blockchain technology. In 2020, I've received the award as a Female Engineer of the Year in Slovenia. Maybe if I go a bit further in the past, it is maybe interesting to mention that I was born in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and when I was 12 years old, war started. So at that point, I came to Slovenia as a refugee. So a little bit of my background. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
So you will present a government perspective, and we also have women with us who show us the perspective of women in leadership in academia. And we have several panelists from this field. Let us start with Dr. Dorota Kołodyńska. She is the Vice-Rector of MCSU in Poland, and you obtained your PhD in chemical science. So please let the audience know a bit more about your background.
Thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Dorota Kołodyńska. I am a chemist. In 2019, I obtained the title of professor in the chemistry. My background is basic and applied chemistry. For many years, I was the Vice Dean for the Education for the International Communication. And in 2020, I obtained the position of the Director of Institute of Chemical Sciences. And now I'm Vice-Rector. As for my research area, my background is connected with the inorganic chemistry, especially for the environmental protection and removal of heavy metals, as well as biodegradable complexing agents and different composites. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having you share your experience. We have more women in academia, and there is Dr. Belén Rubio and Dr. Maribel de Pozo with us. Both of them are vice-rectors at the University of Vigo in Spain, respectively for research and for internationalization, with very different backgrounds. How about you share with us what differentiates the both of you?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for the organization and for inviting me to take part in this round table at the International Women's Day. As you mentioned, my name is Belén Rubio. I'm a professor at the Marine Science Faculty at the University of Vigo. And my research area is mainly marine geology, with particular emphasis in the study of sediments since a paleoenvironmental and paleoclimatic point of view. But I'm also, at this moment, currently the Vice-Rector for Research, Transfer and Innovation since 5 years, since 2018. And I'm also involved in the ATHENA program in the work package for this alliance. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much as well for inviting me, and congratulations to the organizers and to everybody who is present here today. This is a wonderful way to celebrate the 8th of March. Well, as I was introduced, my name is Maribel del Pozo, and I come from the field of translation and interpreting. I am a sworn translator and interpreter and specialize in legal translation and interpretation. At the moment, I am the Vice-Rector for Internationalization, and I am also in the steering committee of the ATHENA University.
Thank you very much for your introductions. And we're now diverting from Southern Europe in Spain to a bit more northern spheres in Europe. And my welcome goes to Aelita Skarzauskenis, and she's joining our conversation from Vilnius Tech, where she works as a research professor. Aelita, please tell us a bit about your background.
Okay. So I am a senior researcher at Vilnius Gediminas Technical University, Lithuania, and my main research interest is digital co-creation, collective intelligence, decentralized web, and decentralized governance. And currently I am leading 2 projects, one Horizon 2020 project and one Horizon Europe project, which are about citizen science and about climate assemblies. So I'm a lot involved in different research activities, and I also have my well-established research team. And together with our research team, we have developed collective intelligence monitoring technique for evaluation of network platforms. And we work also in collaboration with MIT Collective Intelligence Center in Boston, and engage also with Vilnius Blockchain Center, with Forward Community and other networks. So I'm a lot of in research activities. So thank you very much for inviting for this very interesting discussion.
Wow, thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah.
We will have another woman joining from research. Her name is Dr. Areti Murka, and she will also give the audience insights about what it is to be a woman in research. And what are you exactly working on, and what is your background?
Yes. Thank you very much, Denise, and congratulations for the organizations, for this organization of the event today. And thank you very much also for the initiative. It is very very interesting, and I'm really glad that I'm participating in this roundtable taking place today. So my name is Armesto. So good afternoon, everyone from Greece and from Patras. I'm coming from FORTH, the Foundation for Research and Technology Hellas. It is the largest research foundation in Greece. We have 10 institutions located in 6 different cities. As I said, I'm coming from the western side. My background is in physics, and I hold a PhD from the University of St Andrews in Scotland in laser physics. I have worked for several years in research, and at the moment I am the head of unit of the Technology Transfer Office here at FORTH at the institution, because I have worked previously also in academic environment and industry, and I would like to have this kind of link to transfer the research results in industry. So thank you very much.
That's actually a perfect transition to our next speaker, Dr. Agnieszka Zielinska. She combines both the academia and the business sector. So why don't you introduce the audience, introduce us to yourself?
Thank you a lot. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's really great to be here with you. Congratulations a lot for organizing this event. It's great honor and pleasure. Generally, I am a researcher. I work as an assistant professor at the University of Bielsko-Biała in Poland. I'm focused on leadership, digital technology, and skills, so generally human resources management. And I try to link academia and research with business. That's why I also work as a human resources business partner in a high technology company, and I try to support also business.
Thank you so much. We're now going to transition to exactly those industry partners. ATHENA is a European university with a strong focus on the cooperation between universities and the industries. And hence, we're really excited to welcome Maria Boura, Dr. Elisa Gomez Lopez, and Christine Roth. And Christine Roth, you've been holding the position of Chief Strategy Officer for over 10 years. What did your path look like for you to obtain this position?
Thank you, Denise. Firstly, it's both a privilege and a pleasure to be a part of the roundtable today. As you mentioned, my current position is Chief Strategy Officer of ATHENA Ships Management, based in Athens, Greece. I'm actually not Greek. I grew up in America, and my educational background was also in America. I have a bachelor's in business from Arizona State University and an MBA from Harvard. Following my educational background, I worked in brewing, financial services, management consulting, and most recently shipping. So always ended up in very male-dominated industries. And my current position includes responsibility for our human resources, information technology, planning, and corporate communications. So really providing the people and the technology to drive the business on a daily basis and to undertake the change programs to move the business forward as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let us transition to Dr. Elisa Gomez. You've been holding the position of Transport and Packaging Manager at Stellantis Vigo. It's one of the biggest companies in the field in Spain. Yeah. What were your essential points in your career to get to this position, and how did you evolve in this job now over the last, I think it's over 13 years?
Yes. Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. Okay, it's for me a great opportunity to share my experience, but also I am eager to hear the experiences of other women, okay, that have struggled also to get to leadership positions. Well, my name is Elisa Gomez, and I would say that my case is quite uncommon because I don't have a technical background. Okay, I'm holding the position of Transport and Packaging Manager in the automobile sector. However, the studies I did were more related to humanities. So I'm graduating in translation and interpreting at Vigo University, and then I did a master's degree in translation, okay, for international communication. Okay, so when I entered the company, a long time ago, more than 20 years ago, I did tasks that were more related to administrative tasks, okay, because it was more coherent with my educational background. And then I think that due to globalized worlds and the importance of language skill, I was given the opportunity to start working in logistics, which I really loved. And I discovered that I have a passion for logistics, and I was, let's say, good at it, and I put a lot of effort in it and hard work. And also I needed to learn the technical part of it. And since 13 years ago, I'm working in logistics, and I've been little by little climbing positions. And right now I am the transport and packaging manager of one of the biggest companies, one of the biggest car productions plants, not only in Spain, but also in Europe. Okay, we build 2,300 cars per day. And my responsibility is to bring the 5 million parts needed to build those cars every day.
Wow. Sounds like a very challenging job.
Yeah, it's challenging, but it's very interesting. I'm not going to hide it. Sometimes kind of stressful, but I really like it. And for me, it's a great opportunity. Mm-hmm. And also I work as a part-time teacher at UVIGO University, which gives me the opportunity not only to share with the students the academic knowledge, but also to share my daily work experience with them.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. That's what we want. We want this transition between universities and the industry.
Okay, thank you.
Our last panelist is Maria Boura, and you have more than 30 years of international experience in senior positions in the ICT industry, and particularly in the mobile technology sector. And you have just started a new career as an independent executive business advisor. Would you like to give us a brief overview of your career steps to date?
Yes, Denise, thank you. First of all, let me express my gratitude and my excitement to be part of this panel along all these successful and very well-esteemed women. I'm overwhelmed. Thank you for that. If I want to briefly describe my career today, I would say that I have been lucky to work in the high-tech field, especially in the one of the mobile technology, which can change the world to the better. And I have been having the opportunity to consistently and continuously try out new jobs and learn new things, which for me is very, very important. My academic background is physics. I have a degree in physics. And then I got a master in telecommunications. I started working as a in the research environment. And then quite soon I joined one of the global leading companies in mobile technology, starting again in the R&D department as a software engineer. I loved this job. And then I moved on to sales, to business development, marketing and communications, strategy development, execution, government industry relations. I was changing, and that's why I love this job. And as I said, I love that we can change the world with mobile technology. And then just a year ago, I felt that this circle had come to an end, and I decided to go my own way and try to use my experience to help companies who want to grow in areas of leadership, strategy, and 5G, which are the areas that I believe that my expertise can be of value to them. And last but not least, since you asked me to, since 2016, together with another 5 wonderful women from across the world, we have co-founded a Sweden-based NGO, the Women Leadership Hub, with the aim to help grow the number of women leaders across the world. I don't know how well we manage, because we have a disruption now after the pandemic, but and we're doing that in our spare time when we have. But this is very dear to my heart. So thank you for inviting me in this discussion today.
Thank you for sharing your experience with us. And as you pointed out, you also do a lot of volunteering, as many of those women do on this panel, which I think makes you also extraordinary. It is super inspiring for us to hear about your life stories and all the prestigious positions that you're now in. We are also very well aware that getting to those places was most likely also a rocky path, not always filled with sunshine. And we would also like to raise awareness for that and use today's session to address these challenges that are especially faced by women in academia, in research, in the industry, in government. And we would love to do a quick round with you to hear what you consider to be the most challenging aspect of thriving in your career. And Maria, why don't we go on with you and you briefly share what was your
I can start.
Challenge.
Thank you. Well, I think there are quite a few challenges. And actually, a couple of years ago, I've made an octalogue. I've selected 8 key challenges that I see that women face on the way to the top. But now I will, just for the economy of time and also to leave space to the others, I will point on 2 of them. One is external, the other one is internal, because I think they are ones that we don't think of so often. The first one is the unconscious bias, especially in male-dominated fields, like the one I have been working for all my life. I realized, but after many years, now in retrospective, I can see that, not when I was in there, that women are not listened to in the same way that the male colleagues are being listened to. And I have a personal story on that. I had just come back to Greece from some years abroad. It was the end of the 90s, and I was reporting to the CEO of the local company, the subsidiary of the global company. I was working there, part of the leadership team, and I noticed that I was bringing into the leadership team meetings ideas and views, strategic views, business views, and so on. They would listen and nothing would happen. And then the same idea would come up later on, either in the same meeting or in another occasion, from a male colleague. And everybody would go, wow, that's a nice idea. And what I did, I discussed with the CEO on an annual performance review. He was a man and he was Swedish. And I said, look, Lars, I mean, I noticed that. What is going on? And the fact is that he hadn't realized himself. He was not doing it on purpose. And I thought it was because I was too young having that position. But now I see it was because it was an unconscious bias from his side due to my gender. So unconscious bias is one thing, and we need to make the men realize that they suffer from that many times. And then an internal challenge that we usually also face, I will bring another example. In the Windermere Leadership Hub that I mentioned, we had some online sessions with inspiring speakers from around the world. And once we had as a guest speaker, Dr. Camilla Wardrop-Allain. I don't know if you know her, she's an aerospace engineer. She is the first woman and the first person of Caribbean descent that has taken a senior leadership position in NASA in the US, okay? So you can imagine how successful she is. And what she said, one of the challenges she found was the imposter syndrome. This little voice inside our heads which goes and says, you know, are you good enough? Are you really as good as people think you are? Maybe they will find out that you're not that good and you will be exposed, you know, and it hits your self-confidence and it's not good. And even the most successful women have that little voice in their head. And I think we should get rid of this voice and believe in ourselves and say, no, of course I'm worth it. I have arrived to what I have arrived through blood, sweat and tears, especially in STEM positions and in leadership positions. And I will listen to that. I will shut it down.
Yes, you were raising really important points. One is that sometimes when women do voice ideas and really good future opportunities for companies, they are not listened to. There is lots of research done on it, why this is the case.
I know.
But you already jumped forward to a solution. One thing is to really get men as allies and to address the issues. But for now, let's stay a bit on the challenges and continue our round. We will stay in the industry sector. Elisa Gomez, what have you been seeing as one essential challenge?
Well, I'd like just to say something because I was hearing saying that women sometimes question if we are good enough. And I want to bring at the end of my presentation a quote by Michelle Obama that said, whenever you have a question, am I good enough? The answer is, yes, I am. So to answer your question, it is true that women sometimes have these doubts about us. And it is because something that I think is very important that we need to think of is that there are very high level of requirements on women on everything we do. So we need to be perfect mothers, perfect sisters, perfect daughters, perfect professional in our careers. So this is a high pressure on women. And I think they have learned that we have more responsibility than men. So for me, one of the biggest challenges is to balance work life and also family life, but also not to feel guilty. Okay, not to feel guilty for not being there, not to feel guilty if we were long hours, because this is something that happens mostly to women, that we feel guilty all the time. And it is because we have long learned that we are more responsible than men in many fields of life. So this is something we need to change, and it is related also to unconscious bias. Okay, it is not only affecting men, but also women, because we believe, okay, that we need to be, okay, better than men in many things that were traditionally related to us. Okay, it was our task to take care of the family, and also now that we are improving in career or getting higher position in career, we still feel that we need to be as perfect mothers and as perfect sisters or daughters, I guess, if we were not doing anything else. Okay, so this is putting a lot of pressure on women. And for me, this was one of the greatest challenges, okay, just to try not to blame myself all the time, okay, for whatever I did. And the other one for me is quite, as I said, it's quite uncommon, is that I was not only working in a male environment, because when I started working in the company, only 3% of the employees were women, okay, but also I didn't have the technical educational background that was needed for high positions. So for me, this can have two different approaches. One of them was I was not expecting to get to a high position because I didn't have the educational background that was needed for that. So I was not expecting it. And also I didn't see in the environment that you'd have the possibility, okay? Fortunately, this changed a lot. So we started in 1996 with 3%. We are now over 23% of female employees. And the expectations of the company is that we will move to 40% in 2025, okay, quite soon. The moment I started climbing in the positions in the company, there were already 18%, okay, of women, okay, holding positions in the company. So I would say that somehow the stage was set for me. So there were other women that had to struggle harder than me, because at the moment the women started getting high positions, I was not expecting to go there, okay. So, and I was not the first one to go there, but we are still struggling and fighting, okay, for women to get high positions. And in 2012, the company launched several policies in order to encourage women, in order to have facilities to balance work and family life, not just for women, but for men as well. Okay, and we are encouraging also to share family and take childcare. Okay, 50% women and men. So we encourage all the employees to take this responsibility, because this will also allow women, okay, to focus on their career at the same level of men.
Yes, you're raising excellent points. Like, first of all, congratulations on your company that you raised it from 3% to 23, and now aiming
23. Yes.
Yeah, that's very impressive. And what you raise here is that there are all these women before us that came before us, and I think International Women's Day is also a day where we should recognize them and be grateful for all the ones who came before us. Absolutely. Because they have paved the way for us, and it is now our responsibility to continue with this good attitude.
Absolutely.
And one of the challenges you're raising is also, of course, the mental load that is not shared equally, and also the caretaking and of what, especially statistically speaking, women do, of the household, of children, of other relatives in the family. We have one more woman from the industry, Christina Roth. Would you share your experience with the audience and what your challenges were?
Yes, thank you, Denise. I think my challenges, in addition to microaggressions, were sometimes out and out skepticism voiced by, especially in the shipping industry, some male captains with very long-standing careers, as to my ability to do the job, I think for three reasons. First and foremost, being female, second, being foreign, and third, not having a background in the shipping industry. But I think in these instances, the best approach that I found was really just to gain their respect, and the respect of your female colleagues as well, through your contribution and your competence. I think when you hear these sort of comments, there's nothing to be gained by being defensive. Instead, you have to show through your actions.
Thank you. Let us transition from the business world back to academia. And Agnieszka, I would like to continue with you. You're the bridge between both worlds. What are the challenges that you're facing?
Thank you a lot. The challenge that I see very clearly, especially in high technology companies, is women in masculine and high technology workplace. I mean, it's sometimes very difficult for women to shape our own role, not copy, but shape our own role in the work environment, especially taking account imposter syndrome that Maria mentioned. But we really need women in high technology sector. Really, we really need women. So with pleasure, I will share my point of view and my reflections with you later, if you wish.
Thank you. Yes, and you're raising a super important point that in the technology field, in STEM, we need women there. Also, as some of you have raised before, those biases that we all carry with us depend on how we were socialized. And of course, if you want technology to also include the needs of women, there needs to be women in the field to shape them and form them. Areti Murka, I think you're up next in our list. Would you tell us what has been really tough for you in your experience?
Sure. So it will go along as Maria, Elisa, Christina, and Agnesa, the previous speakers mentioned. What I wanted to bring here as a challenge is, of course, the work-life balance and the family life. But this we receive further support the last year, so this is getting better, so we can see an improvement there. But definitely I would like to bring a challenge that I have faced. I have lived abroad, for example, in 3 different countries before, UK, France, Germany, and I returned back to Greece for family and work-life, as I said, issues. What I wanted to say is that as a gender bias, the women, we are often talked over, for example, and interrupted. I think Maria mentioned it also at the start in meetings, and sometimes we have been excluded from important meetings and projects. Then we go back and we discuss ideas with our male colleagues, and then we can see these ideas that they go forward. And when we ask for feedback, most of the times we have given fake and non-helpful, not really helpful feedback and explanations on this. So this it has been a challenge, and this requires extra energy.
Could you maybe elaborate on this? Like, what is the feedback that you got that was very not helpful?
Yeah, so it's mostly like vague explanations. So, for example, you ask for more details, why this my idea, for example, didn't go forward. It was not discussed. At least I was not asked to participate in the meeting, that it was discussed in the first level. And then it was just that it was something like internal, so we didn't approach most of our colleagues. So as I said, it was like high level and things like that. Yeah, to bring an example.
Thank you.
It is not really helpful, and as I said, a little bit vague at this stage. Yeah,
which makes it even more difficult, because if there's a lack of transparency, you cannot grow. If there is feedback that is not clear, there is no way for you to.
So it's not sometimes, so the challenge is not that sometimes you don't feel that your voice is heard, but when you ask also for feedback in order to have like a further development yourself, then this can be an issue.
Certainly.
Yeah, so this is a challenge that I wanted to bring forward. And we can discuss, of course, afterwards, if you would like, how we overtake these things and things like that.
The essential part of today's meeting, but let's
let's
hear.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Of some more women in academia. I lead would you share with us what you have been faced with? And you're on mute.
So first, I would like to add something what Agnieszka said, that we really need women in high-tech organizations and technological organizations. So I want to mention research of Boura from Collective Intelligence Center, which showed that collective intelligence of the group is correlated to the percentage of women in the group. It means that women make the groups matter. So more women in group make the groups matter. And this phenomenon is explained by differences in social sensitivity, which is very important to group performance. Many tests show that women tend to score higher in social sensitivity than the men do. And so for scientists dealing with different environmental problems or social problems, it's very important to have people with high social intelligence, whether men or women. So I met a lot of women in science, especially in social sciences, and actually met more women than men in scientific environment. And I am happy to work with them because they are responsible, active, and very efficient. Efficiency is the thing which they have learned dealing with family, kids, household issues. And many of my PhD students finish their PhD thesis by being pregnant or in maternity leave. So it's very surprising. That's actually surprising how women are becoming more effective in challenging situations. The only disadvantage I feel like a woman at university is that the head positions like rector, head of department, are usually given for men. It's very common practice in Lithuania. And vice-rector and vice-dean position is given to the woman, and they doing the whole work. But situation is changing to better, and we already have 2 women university rectors in Lithuania. So I hope it will change soon to better in Lithuania as well. So there are my insights.
Yeah, hopefully. But that's an important point that you raised, that oftentimes the nitty-gritty details and the actual work is done by women, which we hopefully change in the future.
Yeah.
But let's hear some more challenges from the academia. And I think I'm going to our 2 panelists from Spain, Belén and Maribel. What have you experienced in the past?
Hello again. Thank you, Denise. Yes, you have talked about bias, about imposter syndrome, but in my case, the most significant challenge was the work-life balance. So, for instance, I still remember occasional stressful moments of being late to pick my children up or to arrive to an important appointment. But and also when I went away for a few days for oceanographic campaigns or congresses, states or others. But the worst thing is in many cases I felt guilty for not being with them at important moments. Well, as an example, I remember when my children played every afternoon in the school playground, and other mothers were there, but I was never there. And one day my son told me, Mom, why do you come to the playground? And I told him, why do you come if you are playing with other children and not paying attention to me? And he answered, well, just to be there as the other mothers. So in that case, I felt guilty about this. And this is one example that I remember, but probably this is more than 20 years ago, but there were many of them. And also, as the same as mentioned, Areti. So in Spain, we're only, for the moment, 9 rectors in the more than 76 universities. So it's the same and women generally are vice-rector and not rectors for the moment. It's very occasional circumstances. That's all. Thank you.
Interesting to hear that this challenge is the same in different European countries. I would have to count for Austria. This is actually a good question you're raising, a good point you're raising.
Thank you.
Maribel, what have you?
Yes. Well, my biggest challenge, I think, you have talked about most of the most important things already, and I shared with you all the feelings and all the sensations that you are explaining. For me, I had studied abroad, and I got pregnant when I was very young. I was only 23 when I had my first daughter. And then I came to Spain and I had to study again. I had to start from scratch. And at the same time, I had to work. So I had to work, study, and raise 3 children, okay? So that was really, really hard, beginning to study with 3 children at night. And I was not feeling guilty at all. I was feeling exhausted, So this kind of having to get the energy somewhere, it was my biggest challenge at the time. And I was very lucky, and I must say publicly, because my husband was my real ally, and also my children, my family became my support. And I think, it was a good example of hard work and shared responsibility. And now I have 3 children who have studied, who have done the PhD, who are graduates, and, I feel very proud of that. But my biggest challenge was really, kind of to juggle everything, and at the same time have friends, have social life, and also, try to have a healthy life. I think, talking, sharing, explaining to the children why you're doing certain things, is something that can help. And I want, the younger people who are kind of following this event today to think, that you can do many things, you cannot be hard on yourselves, but you have to learn to involve everybody, it's if you want to get anywhere, you need to have, your allies in your family, in your partner, in your friends, and that's the only way to succeed, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because in the end, if you have 3 kids and a full-time job, that's like having several jobs, not only one. And another really important point you raised there is that the biggest decision is who are your allies and who is your partner, and to break through that glass ceiling. We're going to stay in academia. Dorota, would you like to share with us what you have been?
I think that these points are very common, and in my situation is the same problem. The big challenge for me, it was the setting boundaries between my family responsibilities, because I have also children. I have 2 children, and my work, because work as a chemist is very demanding. So how to set boundaries between what we can do, our responsibilities, our duties, especially when we have some duties connected with our position, not only as researchers, but also as administrative staff. So I think it is a big challenge.
Thank you. You were the last one in our rounds of academics to share the challenges. I would like to transition to our representative from the government of Slovenia, Aida. What are because you've also been a researcher before, so I think you can tell us from both worlds.
Yeah, I've just in September last year started with a position of a state secretary. So I would say that most of my challenges are from my period of working in academia. But I would say that we have actually heard most of the challenges that I have faced myself. And I would say that in my case also a balance of a family life with the work, not feeling guilty when you are not with the family. These are the biggest challenges. I would also point out something else, and is that women in general, I would say that we have, maybe this is a too strong statement, but I would say that a lot of times we have a lower self-confidence, and because we hold ourselves to impossibly high standards. So probably this comes also because the society partially imposes and so on. There are many different factors there, but we as mothers and as workers and so on, we impose ourselves certain standards. And I would say that women in tech often won't apply for a job if they are not 100% qualified, 100% sure that they are really at the top and so on and so on. While our male colleagues, probably they would just have enough self-confidence to apply, even though maybe they don't have all those requirements fulfilled, you know. So I would say this is something that we have to overcome. We as a woman in a tech, in ITC, just to, as one of the previous speakers said, we have to be sure, and just whenever you question yourself, just to say, yes, I'm good enough, and I will try.
You're already heading straight to the solutions that we would like to discuss. That's wonderful, because yes, of course, there's all these challenges, but we need to nail them down, and we also need to find strategies to overcome them in the near future and not wait for 300 years, which is the proposed time it would take for gender equality to really be fully in place. So Aida, why don't we just go with you? And you've already raised some examples. So applying for a job, even though you don't fulfill everything, is definitely a good solution. I know statistically speaking, women only apply if they have more than 100% of the criteria that are posted in the position. What else is there? How, on the one hand side, like what solutions are there? Are there creative ideas that you could come up with? Or some experience that has worked in your field? And most importantly, how can also men be allies to help women face these challenges?
Yeah, I would come now from the position of a government. So I think there are quite a few activities and done already, you know, to help in this transition. So, for example, flexible working hours, remote work, so to address this work-life balance issues. Also in Slovenia, the maternity leave 1 year that could be divided between partners. So this is something that I think we should promote more. I would say that the mentorship programs are really, really important. So that women are being supported and guided by other women who understands and who has already the experience. They can be a crucial enabler, but also men, of course, in ICT, men are really important in this sense as mentors, as those who can enable and who can give you even more self-confidence and understand that all the obstacles that are in front of you. So I think the men are actually the most important allies for women in this sense. Today, when I was at another panel, I said we need all men, all feminist men, and it seems like strange combination, but no, you know, that if we talk about what really means feminism, you know, giving the equal opportunities to men and women, you know, I see it this way. I believe that many men are in this position, and maybe they are not in front, maybe they are not exposed, but I think that we have to make them and invite them as allies in this in attacking these issues and those challenges. We as a ministry also, we have different initiatives and we are preparing different activities to increase the number of women in ICT, to reduce this difference between the share of men and women in this field. There are different initiatives in Slovenia. I already mentioned that I was awarded Female Engineer of the Year. I think those are really important because those initiatives helps you and gives you like a platform when you can then address young women, that you can be a role model for younger generations, and it's much easier because a lot of times younger women, they are not deciding for ICT or for technical studies because they don't have role models. They don't understand that there are women in this because of some traditional views and because of maybe some stereotype views within the society. And another thing is that we continuously have to sharpen skills and learn and grow. And it's really here we see the importance also of reskilling and upskilling, that we have to put more effort as a government and as a society in it. From the personal perspective, I would say that supportive husband is supporting family members are actually the most important part. You know, without this support, then all the rest is not actually giving the right results. So again, we come to the men in our at our homes and men at the workplace, who should become our biggest allies.
Wonderful advice. I think it was RBJ who said, you marry your own glass ceiling. I think it's a lot of truth to that. And I love how you from a government address so many aspects of it. Shared parental leave, men as allies, and also women in ICT and in so many fields where they are not represented yet. And that you're aware of this, and also of the re- and upskilling. I think this also comes back to European universities, where this is also a focus to ensure that the societies where the universities are located in really gain and get the skills from the university that they need. We would like to hear more solutions, and let's switch back to academia. And I think Dr. Dorota Kołodyńska, would you share with us?
Yeah, in my point of view, I think that the very important thing is building relationships with our colleagues, with our decision makers, our staff, because they help us to create boundaries, create some decision what is important and what is not. Also, as was mentioned, it is very important to obtain support from our families, from our partners, children, and so on. So it is my advice, building relationship with the staff and family.
Thank you. I'm moving back to Spain, metaphorically. Dr. Maribel del Pozo and Dr. Belén Rubio, what have you experienced, and what are like takes, maybe in Spain in general, or at your university, that are maybe more creative, or where you could share your advice to the audience listening?
Maribel, you first.
Well, I must say, you know, that I agree with all the colleagues that who have spoken. For me, you know, my salvation was feminism. I learned from my daughters, you know, to be a feminist. And since I have all these gender training and gender perspective, I feel more empowered. I feel, you know, that I can do better things for society. And I think I can bring a lot more to the institution, to the university. I understand better, you know, the impact of the different measures, the different policies, and I can see reality from a different perspective altogether. So, you know, but as Ida said, you know, it's also necessary that men are feminists as well. So, you know, we need to keep working, you know, on this field. From the University of UVIGO, we have taken very concrete measures, and in fact, you know, this is going to be our great contribution to ATHENA, I believe. You know, the creation of a gender unit, because the University of UVIGO has been pioneer in the design and implementation of different measures. Okay, one of them is the implementation of the gender perspective into research, teaching. We have all these teaching modules online that can be followed by all the researchers, the lecturers, that are really, really good, you know, to apply the gender perspective to our activity. And then, you know, in the last elections, you know, our rector was elected a few months ago, you know, the team was elected a few months ago. There were a few measures in the program that are very innovative, and I think I will let Belén explain one of the best ones, and the one that we think is going to have a great impact. So Belén, can you explain that?
Okay, thank you, Maribel. Yes, there are several measurements that we have taken here, but I would like to say first one date. For instance, the percentage of male professors in Spanish university and also in the University of Vigo is 75% in males, in compared to 25% in the case of women. So this is the reason why it's so important to do this kind of positive actions for obtain this equality. Because we are not starting from the same point. And in this case, two of the actions, one was we apply, well, every year we gave some money to our researchers for the scientific production they have. It's a very few quantity, but for continuous in research. And we have a measure that is in the case of women that have to look after children or family, we consider the average value of the 3 last years if they have a decrease during this period of time. And also this year we have implemented a new one that is to decrease the time of teaching of these women researchers in order they can increase the capacity of research and continue without keeping up the pace of the rate of the research. And these are the two more important measures. But I think also it is very important to continue celebrating these international days as the Women's Day, and also the Women and Girls in Science that we celebrate on the 11th February, because with the aim of making the work of women in STEM areas more visible, and to achieve full and equal access and participation of women in science as well. That's my...
Thank you. Yes, these are very important points, especially the visibility of women is something we often underestimate, what a huge impact it can make if there are role models and if there are women that younger women or girls can look up to in the different fields.
Yeah, because we want that our youngest female researchers must be aware that they can be a principal investigator of projects, leaders of groups, or leaders of research centers or companies, or whatever they propose, just like men.
And from what Maribel shared before, I think ATHENA can be very grateful for having your experience in this alliance, because it will make a difference on all universities that are participating in ATHENA.
I hope so.
I'm sure. Let me go a bit further north in Europe, and have Aelita. Okay, sorry. I just heard that she's gone for a second, so I will jump to Dr. Arete Murka. So we're staying in the south, getting warmer. Tell us, what have you come up with? What have been ways for you to solve the challenges addressed before?
Yes. So hello again. So from my side, there are two things. So we have heard already both of them, but I'll try to explain it. As I said, we are working on different fields, mostly based on deep tech, for example, fields. So first, I've heard from Aida, for example, the phrase, "I'm not good enough." So the first thing that I wanted to mention, how to overcome the challenges and how we're discussing in my team, how we are discussing in the different research institutions, is that we are always saying that you should ignore this kind of stereotypes of this glass ceiling and focus on your work, focus what you would like to do, mostly stay there, because what we bring, and we have like in our native language like a phrase, is that if you are focusing on the glass ceiling, then you're focusing on what you don't have and you always see the negative side, and then you're focusing on the limitations. So this will bring you afterwards, it will make you to be also limited. So what we want to do at this first point is that as Aida said, that you're good enough and you should build your confidence. So try to stay focused. And the second thing to overcome these challenges, I mentioned you before also have heard here, is this kind of opportunities. So first, if you build your confidence, as you also said, Denise, you will be confident enough that if you don't have like 100% all the criteria, you will go and you will apply. You will apply on this job opening that you will see. But we need to create this kind of job openings as well. So as Aida mentioned, yes, we have heard in the field of ICT that there are different initiatives, but we need this kind of initiatives. We need this kind of fellowships. We need this kind of opportunities for female scientists around. It's really important to have also the different channels in order to apply your CV. First step is this one, and the second one is, yes, to create fellowships, to create this kind of opportunities, and to have initiatives as this one today, and also the mentoring programs that they were mentioned before. We have seen and we are discussing with students in the lab. It helps them a lot to see all of these role models that we have surrounding us here today, and this kind of initiatives. So we really we like to have this kind of opportunities around. In this way, we bring the message forward. We can see new standards, and we build new role models for them. So first is to build your confidence, go for it, even if you don't have 100% criteria. And the second one is to try to make this kind of opportunities, fellowships, mentoring programs. These are really helpful for the research institutions, academia. And as well, I hope for industry as well.
It's also hopeful for us in the universities to ensure that the positions are shaped in this way. Thank you for sharing your advice.
Thank you.
Dr. Agnieszka Dzielinska, would you share with us what you have experienced?
Yes, of course, with pleasure. So firstly, I think be brave. Be brave to try, be brave to say no. Sometimes I will not do it, and be brave to say yes. Yes, I can take it. Yes, I can deal with it. So we should be really engaged and just be brave. So firstly, be brave. Secondly, be honest. Be honest with yourself and be honest with other people. I mean, we have only the one life. So if you don't feel comfort with some situations, try to change it. And the last point from me, if I can share with you my suggestion from business, try to think about the contribution. I mean, try to get to know your colleagues, try to get your leader, and find what will be useful for them. Try to find what kind of contribution will be valuable for them. In that way, we can be valuable partners for men and for our society. So those three things: firstly, be brave; secondly, be honest, especially with yourself, and think about the contribution for your team and for your organization. That's from me.
So that women are also aware what they bring to the table, because they bring a lot.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Let us hear voices from our industry partners. And I would like to start with Christine Roth. You have a long-standing experience. What made you overcome all the challenges mentioned before, and what are your tips?
Thank you, Denise. I think many of my solutions, I would echo what the women previous to me have said. What I think is interesting, though, is that I think for things to really change, it's going to take not only women wanting to change, but also men wanting to change. And women will continue to bear the burden of sorry, it's not a burden. Women will continue to bear children, and women even today continue to do most of the housework. Men tend to do the chores that are less frequent, like wash the cars or outdoor chores, and women tend to do the things that have to be done day after day after day. And I think until there's a change in that sort of balance, not only in the working world, but also at home, I think it will be very difficult for things to change. Also, society's impressions still judge women and men differently. There's been research that's shown that messy houses, the women are perceived negatively, whereas men are just thought of it, but it's okay, men have messy houses. So there's a lot of things to overcome, I believe, but at a very practical level, I think it's not only women that need to be willing to change, but also men, both in the business world and at home.
And from your experience, because you're bringing up that women do tasks more often, more frequently, and there is also research being done on that women tend to do a lot of tasks in their work life that are non-promotable. So taking care of the office, watering the plants, all sorts of things. What would you advise young women? Should they continue with those? Should they completely get rid of those more social tasks?
I think that's a tricky question, because some of those things are what make women women and what bring the empathy and the value that a woman brings. Men and women are different, and we all bring different things to the party. But if that becomes the only thing that they're valued or recognized for, I think it's an issue. To be honest, there have been times in my career where I really had to say to myself, no, don't get up and get the coffee for everybody in the room, because you're the only woman and that's the thing that I have to do. My tendency is to want to get up and do it because that's who I am as a person. So I'm not really answering the question very specifically because I think it's a fine balance, but I think being aware of that, not trying to be something or someone other than who you are, and just recognizing though that we bring things to the table that men don't, but we need to also be recognized for the things that we bring that are valuable as well.
Yeah, it is. There's a thin line for sure. Definitely.
Yes.
Dr. Elisa Gomez-Lopez, I would love to hear from your experience in the transport sector. Also, in your personal life. What are the good things that came out of it? What are the solutions that you have?
Okay, well, I think that we all mentioned before that we have difficulties balancing our job life and also our family life. So I think one of the most important things in order to help increase in our careers is that we have policies in the companies and also in the governments that help us balance, not just women, but there are focus on both. men and women. And in our company, we have about 10 policies that are focused precisely on that, in order to get more women in the company and in order to get more women in leadership positions. So for me, that's very important. Also, there is the possibility, for example, to get a summer break. When children have no schools, you have the possibility to decide not to work in the summer so that you can be with the children, because we are now talking about having a partner that will be your support, but there's also single mothers, and they also have the right to have a career if you have no one supporting you. Okay, so we need to have measures also for people that are alone, raising their children and trying to make a career. Okay, another thing that is very important for me is to have like forums like this one, when women can share their experiences. And we also have one in our company. It's called Women of Stellantis. And every 2 weeks, there's a woman that is telling the others what has been her experience in the company, how she has struggled with all the difficulties, how she's balancing, okay, all the difficulties she's finding. So I think this is very important, because maybe some women may feel that they are not able to do it. And then when you listen to other women that are able and are happy with what they're doing, this can inspire and encourage other women. So I think this is a very good initiative, and I'm happy that to have this one and to be part of this one as well, okay, because I think it can be inspiring for other people. And then we were talking before about unconscious bias, and I think this is very important, because maybe we have already overcome or somehow overcome direct, okay, bias that are found in society. But there are these subtle things, like you were talking before about some tasks that are traditionally related to women in the office. So there are more subtle things that you may do it because you want to be gentle, okay, you want to be polite, but the limit is not clear, whether you're doing it because you're a woman or just want to be polite. So there's subtle things that are more difficult, okay, to overcome. And for that, we are also having training courses for newcomers and for all the company. We were all, it was mandatory to do some training courses in order to bring awareness on this unconscious bias for any kind of discrimination, okay, for gender equality, but for any kind of discrimination in the company. And I think this is very good, and all newcomers need to do these trainings as well. And then I would like just to mention something that I do, is since I'm working in industry and also in university, so and I'm a female in a male world and not having the technical background, so I try to explain this to my students, because on the opposite side in university, I have 90% female students. So I'm working in a male environment, but then at university, most of my students are female. So I think it's also good for them that they hear the experience of someone that was not supposed, let's say, okay, to be in a leadership position 20 years ago, and now I'm doing it. So I try to also share that with my students.
Wonderful. And I think this is something the universities can learn from, well, some already do, like we heard from Vigo, but that what you do in the company is that you do raise awareness, you do offer training courses, that also this is transitioned to the university sector. We have one last panelist, Maria Boura. I hope you're still here.
Yes, I am.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We would love to hear from you, because you have also different perspectives from the NGO side and also from the business world.
Yes, thank you. Well, I believe we have said most of it, but I'll try to group it in a way that it's easy to remember. I think at the end of the day, it's all a matter of priorities. So first of all, this issue of gender parity needs to become a top priority at all levels, in politics, in education, at work, at home. So we need to change the mentality and the culture of the people, and this takes time. And of course, it begins with us. So I see two areas or solutions to these challenges that we all face. One is what we can do as women for us. So what we can do to help us and other women to get up, forward, and what we should demand others to do for us. In the first part on what we can do for us, the first thing I think is what everybody said, being a role model, sharing experiences. This is extremely important. As I remember, there was a research at a certain point, and a young lady said, because they were asking, why don't you take up a career in STEM? Why don't you take up a career in leadership? Why don't you want to be? And she said, how can I want to become something that I don't see around me? So we need to create and promote and share more and more experiences and role models from ourselves, from other women that we know. Do that as much as possible so that the young ladies, the young girls, they can see that, yes, it's doable. Yes, you can do it. Let's advise, coach, mentor other women, help them to climb the ladder of success, be there, be supportive, and so on. So that's the one thing that we can do for us. The second thing is, as everybody said before, be bold and dare. Dare to apply for that position, even if you have only 50% of the qualifications, because men do that. Dare to go up to your manager and ask for this promotion and ask for this salary increase. They do it, we don't. We should be more daring and don't settle for less. And of course, get rid of the imposter syndrome that we said before. And the third thing that we could do ourselves, for ourselves and for the other women, is how we have a very big responsibility, because we are raising the next generation. We are raising our children. And if we don't have children ourselves, we are in contact with children from our sisters, from our brothers, from our, from our environments, our friends. And it's very important for the children to act as an example and to show them that, yes, women can do it. Yes, women can take up leadership positions and they can be very successful, because the children learn from what they see around them. And I mean, I still see, I was so surprised when I was raising my kids. I have 2 sons, and it was a long time ago. But when I was raising them and I was in contact with other women, even women who were working hard, I could see that they would differentiate the way they would address their boy and the girl in terms of what clothes they wear, what colors they wear, what toys they use, what hobbies they do. Why should we do that? We should stop doing that. I mean, I always said to my children when they come and say, but they told me at school, this is a girl's toy. I said, no, there are no girls' toys. There are no boys' toys. All toys are toys. And if you like it, you should play with it. You shouldn't care about what the others say. And this is something that, unfortunately, I don't see that all of us are doing like this. We are still discriminate ourselves, unfortunately. And we have this another unconscious bias maybe that we should be aware of. So the 3 things we can do for ourselves is the role models, the be bold and dare, and how do we raise our children. And then if we go to what we should demand from others to do for us, I think that has to do more, of course, with the top, if it is the CEO of the company or if it is the prime minister of the government and so on. Change should come from the top. They should be the first ones to show that this is a top priority for them. If it is a top priority for them, then it's measured, you have KPIs, you follow it up regularly and rigorously, and you set quotas. I'm sorry to say that. I would be some years ago the last one to talk about quotas, but unfortunately we're going backwards, we're not going forward. So at this stage, and for some years ahead, I think we should put quotas, and quotas should be 50% of women in BOD positions, 50% of women in leadership positions, 50% of women in the parliament. We cannot work with 20, 25, 30%, no, because then we will never be there. I mean, we need 132 years to close the gender gap, and it went up by 2 years in the last 2 years. Why? I mean, so it must be the top priority of the people who are on the top. And usually these people are men, so they have to realize the responsibility they have and do that. Then the second thing is, one thing that we could demand from others is to consistently and relentlessly ask to educate and build awareness. As we said before, men, they're not inherently, how can I say, disposed negatively about women. Mostly they're unconsciously doing that. So they need to get the data. Most men do not know that women, in average, they do 3 times more unpaid work than men. At home, with the children, with the elders, with the sick people, with their parents, and so on. They don't know that. If we tell them that, then they will say, Opa, I need to do something about it. So we have to educate. They have to be educated. And the state needs to play a very important role, and the school in this. Unconscious bias, networking activities, because again, because of most of the leaders, especially in high-tech environments, are male, they usually organize networking activities end of the week, Friday afternoon. Let's go for a beer to the pub to see the match. How many women can follow? Not so many. Why? Because it's Friday evening, you need to go home and take care of the children, the home and everything else. You don't like football necessarily, and you don't like the beers. So when you are suggesting networking activities, have in mind that you should be inclusive. You should do that in a way that it doesn't exclude women for participating. And then in school education, I mean, school education must really change even more. I mean, we should stop directing girls to, being a teacher, being a nurse, being a doctor, and boys to being an engineer, being a technology freak, being a programmer, and so on. Why? I mean, I think this is changing slowly, but we need to do more. So I think things we need to do for us, we can do ourselves, and things we should demand to be done from others.
Thank you. Wow, this was a lot of advice from so many smart women in this room. I'm very impressed. And it also tells us that there is a lot of homework that we have to do. One thing is, of course, to ensure that our governments take this issue serious and shape policies and laws in a way that gender equality can really be reached. And hearing from Slovenia, I think there's already a lot of good things are on the way, and a lot of things have already been achieved. Also in the academic world, we need new ideas, and learning from UVIGO, I think today was super important to hear that there are those initiatives. And the beauty of European universities in general, or the European University Initiative, is that we can see those best practice examples from different universities in different countries and be a bit sneaky and copy them to our local circumstances, and also use those ideas in our settings at the different universities. One thing that, one sentence that struck me today, and I think it was Maribel who said it, that she learned to be a feminist through her children. And this is something where I think also the interplay of the generations is super valuable in this future, to really tackle the issue, that we also educate ourselves. Feminism per se is nothing against men, and this has been raised by many of you today. And this is something that we really should make more people aware of. This is a good thing, and it's also benefiting men. And I see so many questions popping from all sides, so I will try to wrap up. I can only say a huge, huge thank you to all of you on the panel today. It's now 5:30. We still have a couple of questions. If you still have time, I would love for you to stay on, and whoever feels most excited about the question that I'm posing, to just take your turn and answer it. I will actually, because questions have been sent in prior, and I also received some in the chat, so I will start with one that was sent in prior. There is a participant asking that in the country where she used to live, a lot of female colleagues were working as executive directors. And in the country she is now in, this is not the case. And he or she, I don't know, the person experienced that in the country she's in now, there's a lot of focus on the equality in language and how to speak in a gendered way. However, the important issues like sufficient daycare for children or the same chances to be active in the labor market are not solved. What would you advise what advice would you give to this person to change things? Who would like to give it a try?
Maybe I can say something. Yeah. Denise, can you hear me?
So sorry, I think the noise is gone.
Cutting your onions wrong. Most people do it like this. Oh, cut it out cute, or like this, or
Someone has background noise. Okay. So to come back to the question, what would you advise when the focus is set wrong in the sense of, or the emphasis is more on shape, I wouldn't say wrong, I take that back, if the focus is more on shaping the language instead of having sufficient childcare.
If you want, I can say something. But,
yes, please.
I don't know if you can hear me. Yeah. Well, language is important. Language is a representation of reality. So, you know, I don't think, you know, only, you know, changing the language can make any changes in reality. But in fact, you know, reality is shaped by language. You know, we represent reality by the language that we use. So this is a first step, and it's an important one, to be inclusive in the way we express ourselves. But of course, you know, this has to be accompanied by real measures. This cannot just be a makeup, you know, just a superficial change. And this should respond to the inclusiveness that we are really, you know, looking for. And, you know, this is done through everything, you know, policy making, legislation, applying a gender perspective to everything, to research, to teaching, to everything in our lives. So this is something that has to be done both by men and women. And you know, this is what I believe.
Yes, that's a good point, also to ensure that this gendered lens is used in many different contexts. I see there's also a question in the chat to the speakers. What can be done to build awareness and encourage more male colleagues to join discussions on women in leadership, like the one we're having today? What are your tips? What would you advise that more males are joining?
Invite them.
Well, here, this is a public event. Everyone was invited. So.
Well, I would say that Kostas was the promoter of this meeting. So thank you and congratulations to Kostas for organizing this. And it's a man.
Yes, I will pass the word on to him. He's a huge asset in that regard. He has already left us because he has to teach, but Kostas is the General Secretary of the ATHENA Alliance.
I think we could ask men who are active already, like Kostas, for example, to engage themselves more men into such initiatives. I think that's easier to do than, you know, go out random. Of course, you do an open discussion, and of course, anybody can join. But this is an issue, actually. I have also noticed that most of these events are attended by women. So we talk about the problems and the solutions ourselves. And we don't have the real people who are going, because most of them who are going to solve it on the top level, unfortunately, are still mostly men, right? So maybe that could be one way.
That's why maybe it's a good idea to invite men to the next our event. So we'll have opportunity to see their point of view.
Yes, we can do a follow-up on male allies in the sector. I have another question that was sent in. We constantly talk about the challenges facing women in leadership, emphasizing the strategies needed to overcome these challenges, as also in the description of this very welcome session. Isn't it time to stop perpetuating and confirming those biases and simply adopt a different and much more positive narrative on female leadership, taking a here's another great female leader, let's look at the conditions framing her success approach? Well, I partly think we did this today, at least I hope so. What do you think? Should we totally ignore the challenges and just focus on all the good things? I think, Areti, you had the Greek saying that if we focus on the glass ceiling, there is only the glass ceiling, which I see you have a point, but then again, just ignoring all the challenges, is this the way forward?
No, I wouldn't think so, because in the way that when you discuss the challenges, then you can see different examples that may be in different cases that maybe you have faced yourself before. And when you're facing these kind of difficulties, you really would like to know what different people did in this kind of perspective, in this kind of cases. So it's a very good practice to go along and then put the good examples out there and then say that, yeah, I was promoted, I got this job offer at the end, I was brave enough to apply for this job, not many people, in order to encourage much more people to go for it, we need to put across the messages from all these challenges that we have heard today. This will make you stay focused, as I said, and then you really need to know the challenges.
So we must have awareness about the challenges, but then focus on the solution and not continue talking about the challenges.
But you need to know also a range of solutions. So you can afterwards apply one for yourself, you know, to build your confidence, etc. We have heard different things here, very interesting approaches. But you need to hear a lot of different approaches as well. So yeah, not only one solution. This is
you
what
have
I
a
want to mention.
backpack full of ideas and possible solutions. And I hope that for the people that are listening, that you got some ideas from our leaders that are joining this roundtable. I see that there is another question.
Can I add something, Denise, on that one?
Yes, please.
I was thinking as you were speaking, as you were discussing with the other ladies, I think if you focus only on the success stories without seeing the challenges that lie behind this success story, we run the risk that the women who are seeing this successful woman, you know, on a senior leadership position, they will not be able to associate themselves with her because they think, but she was extraordinary, you know, she made it, but you know, she didn't have any setbacks, any problems. So, and I'm less than her. So, I mean, I think it's a matter of it's important to show the vulnerability. As I mentioned to you before, this Dr. Camille Wayne Wardrop, I mean, I would never expect that she would say that she had the imposter syndrome. And I felt so much close to her when I heard that. I said, well, I have the same from time to time, so I'm not crazy, you know. It's not only me, it's also her, and look where she is. I mean, she's in NASA, and she's senior leader, and she's the first one. And that makes you relate better to the person and opens up to see that even the successful women are vulnerable and have gone through hell to get to what they get to. Otherwise, you just see the destination and it can look too distant and too far away to reach. So you can get discouragement instead of encouragement.
Yeah, thank you for adding this.
Can I add something to that as well?
Please.
Yes, thank you, Maria. I think you raised a very important issue. And also we cannot forget that we are the lucky ones. You know, we cannot forget that there are so many girls in the world that have no access to education, that there are so many women in the world that have never been able to go to school, that are really forced to get married, you know, at a very young age. So, you know, a lot of the population of the women in the world are not in the position we are in. So we cannot forget the challenges because we are kind of the privileged ones, and we cannot forget, you know, the people who are still, you know, very far behind, and we have to pull them with us.
Yes, definitely. And this is also maybe a caveat of today that the discussion is framed, of course, from a very privileged position with women who have gotten to really, really high positions. Thank you for pointing that out. I have another question that was sent in. How can you balance the creation of family and career? The energy goes where your focus is, and you can only have a strong focus on one. Do you agree, disagree? It seems like all of you got managed everything somehow. Of course, also with...
I think it's very important, if I might say, the support system. You need to build the support system. Of course, the best would be to be your partner, first of all, if you have one. But then also, you know, family and friends. I mean, ask for help. because otherwise you cannot make it. I mean, nobody can make it alone. This is a very heavy and very important job to raise the children, and of course also the career. I mean, it's a very, very difficult thing. So you definitely need to get support, and we shouldn't be shy to ask for support, to ask for help, you know, to open doors. And if we don't have family, maybe friends, you know, find other women, go into circles. So to find ways to help us go through this, because yes, it's tough. It's very difficult. It's not easy, but it's doable.
And also, just not only putting all the effort on us, companies and governments must have policies that help us do it. Okay, just not taking everything on our shoulder again, just having policies that will allow us to make it easier for us to get the balance.
Definitely.
Also, such meetings like today is also very important, because we can see that we are not alone.
Yes. And I think too often women think they are, even though everyone, but it has to do with, of course, with different reasons, like time poverty and just being, yeah, not really having the opportunities to go above and beyond, to also additionally trying to evolve in your career and your family. And it's a lot of, it's a huge burden in the end. There is still something in the chat. From my perspective, we do not just need a seat at the table, but we must build a brand new table that can serve us in practical and profound ways. Do you believe that we need to start with how women between us interact and empathize, sorry. This is so small on my screen, I can hardly read it. But I guess some of you have already addressed this, that building strong relationships and interacting with other women is like one part of the solution. Of course, only it's one puzzle piece, not the whole solution. Would one of you like to add on it? Or should we jump to the next question?
I can add something, you know. I think we need to bring the female outlook on things. You know, we don't need to be like men. You know, this is something that is very important. You know, we do not need to kind of reproduce men values again. You know, we can feel very proud of being women and what we bring into the organization, because, you know, female values are always really good. Okay, and we should feel proud of it, and you know, feel proud of what we bring into the organization. So I have a feeling that sometimes, you know, you think that in order to be successful and to get to the top, you have to reproduce the male role, and that is not. I don't think, you know, that is the right way to be. You know, with the women roles, with the motherly roles, with whatever roles, you know, we bring, is as good as any other. So, you know, this is something important and something that we should feel empowered about it. And of course, you know, we should be a network. We should help each other, and we should never be a barrier for another woman to get to the top.
Thank you. Being mindful of time, I would suggest that we wrap things up with the last question that came from the audience. What do you think makes women unique in their leadership style? Let's do a quick round with all of you before we close this conversation for today. Just the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't think too long. Usually the first thing is the right thing.
Okay, so I can start. I think it's really great to find our own career path. Not copy, but find something what is good for us, and maybe sometimes offer something unusual. I mean that, for example, when it comes to my business experience, to be honest with you, my job post as a human resources business partner, it didn't exist before I joined to the organization. I saw the opportunities, I saw needs of organization, and I offer something new for the organization. Maybe sometimes is try to find our own path and be happy with it.
That's very nice. Thank you. Agnieszka, who would like to have some last words next?
Can I speak
Yes,
again?
please, Maria.
I think the first thing that came onto my mind is what we bring on the table is empathy. Mm-hmm. It's a different way of seeing things. Actually, that's why they say that diversity brings innovation, and innovation is very useful to technology. You understand that? So empathy and a different way of thinking, I think that's what we bring to the table.
Thank you. Elisa, I think you're next, because I see that you're already ready to share with us.
Yeah, well, I like to share with you one phrase that I like. I don't know the origin, but it has been inspiring for me many times in my life, is that the strongest trees always grow against the wind. And I think that this reflects a little bit what women struggle every day, that when we grow against the wind. And I think that makes very strong women, and that help us to be in leading position and doing it in a different way, but as well as men.
Well, I hope in the future we can set the sails that we go with the wind.
That's it. That will come.
Yeah. Dorota, would you like to share with us what you?
Yeah, in my point of view, I think that very important is persistent and patient. It is a very good point of view in the perspective of our family as well as our research career, because it is important. It is a very long-term process. So we should be patient and very persistent.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Areti, would you like to go next?
Sure. What I have seen also here today, I would like to mention the networking and the teamwork skills. What I can see around me, at least in research, is that the women in the workplace can bring the skills and they can encourage the people around them, the different team members, to thrive, to go for it. And so I would say also networking and teamwork skills.
Thank you. Who have we? Belén, yes.
Okay, very shortly, I'd say go ahead and no one step backwards.
Thank you. And Maribel?
Well, I once heard a man saying that if the world was ruled by women, there'd be no wars, because women can dialogue, can bring peace, and can negotiate. So I think, that is something that we have to believe ourselves, that we can be the best leaders.
Wonderful, that women can be the best leaders. That's a very nice sentence to close our session today. Thank you so much for joining this panel and for being so open and honest about your experiences, and that you gave us the opportunity to really learn from your challenges, from maybe your mistakes, and that in the future we can hopefully get to gender equality much faster than it is currently projected. I would like you to, of course, celebrate all the women that came before us and who made these paths, and also your careers, my career, possible. And let us be the generation who shapes the future and who gets our governments and important actors in different sectors to a point where we can reach gender equality much faster than it is currently the case. Thank you so much for today, and we will close this call now.
So Denise, thank you a lot. Thank you a lot for organizing. It's a great pleasure for all of us. We are very thankful for you and for Kostas. to organizing this event, and based on it, we can create networking and support each other, so we can build a good environment to support. Thank you a lot.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
And wonderful.
Bye.
And
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. You did wonderfully.
Thank you. So.